All right, all right. Well, we got our guy Dylan in the background now, which is exciting. So he's getting Facebook up and running, and it is Monday morning here, the last day of March. It pretty much means we're in the truly the home stretch now for the NFL draft here, and we're going to be doing an entire first round mock today. So welcome in again. Happy Monday to you, Eric. How are you doing this morning? Hopefully you got better sleep than I did. My guy, for some reason, 1 o'clock to 2:30 was upset. I was like, it was like I would rock him for 60, 90 minutes. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to set you in the crib. And he was awake in there banging away, but not crying. So that's a step forward. He was okay being in the crib, not upset. So that's a win, even though I got 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get much more than you. I tried something new to help me sleep tonight, and it did not help. And then when I did get to sleep, I slept wrong, and now my back is killing me. It feels
Mm.
like there is somebody that is taking like a baseball bat that is just like jamming it into my back, which is lovely. But I'm here. I made it. Got a little bit of rest, and excited to do a first round mock and talk about the latest. The
Yeah.
ownership meetings are underway, and so we got a little bit some nuggets this morning to talk about, and some very interesting nuggets.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully your back pain isn't involved with a carrot. But let's move it forward here. We got Denver Luke in here. Good morning, y'all. Great to see you, Denver. Our guy Jake coming in says good morning. May not be able to catch you live, but have a great show. Go Broncos. Well, Jake, give a wave if you are live. If not, thank you for just even coming in and leaving a comment and saying hello. We always appreciate that. And obviously, not everyone's in position to give a super chat and contribute that way, but just contributing to the chat before or after the show, leaving a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, all of that. If you're joining us, this far, I mean, I'll definitely say this is Eric's time of year with the draft coming up. I mean, we're slow in free agency. Now it's all like the deep stuff. Everybody knows the first rounders, but why do the players make sense? Where else are they going to go? What's the board say? So it's a very hypothetical time of year, but it's also, man, very, very fun as well. And we're going to do one of those exercises with a full first round mock again. String Guy in here says, I'm finally getting your name right, String Guy. I used to always be Sting Guy. It's like, Nick, there's an R in there. Come on. Good morning, BFB. Don't have to work until 2 p.m. today, so I can watch live this morning. Well, that's awesome. He also says, I'm a fan of Illinois wide receiver Pat Bryant. I watched him play a few times last season. He's a great blocker. He catches everything. Love to hit. What do you guys think? Maybe fifth or sixth round in Denver? Love Pat Bryant in the fifth or sixth round. He's one of the very few X receivers in this class. He plays like 6'3", 215, and he's like 6', 205. I wish he was a little bit either bigger or more athletic, but then you wouldn't be talking about him in the fifth or sixth round. With that physicality, he does project well to special teams. I don't know if he's going to be flying as a gunner, but like if you're bringing a physical profile, there's still some value to that, of course. So yeah, he's a great shout out, and Bielema is doing a pretty darn good job out there in Illinois. They have a lot of talent in that area. It's been kind of a sleeping giant since, gosh, Zook was there and took them to some good teams. So I'm a little bit envious. I'm keeping an eye out for Bielema and the Fighting Illini as well. And shout out to him. Met him a few times. He's a character, man. I'm a Brett Bielema fan.
Yeah, I mean Pat Bryant, he's one of my guys in this draft. I like him there in the fourth or fifth round. I'm not sure if he'll fall to the sixth, but he's one of those guys where if he gets to a certain point, hey, we have 3 6-round picks. Let's package 2 of them. Let's move up and go get them. I am a big Pat Bryant fan. I remember talking about him, even though I forgot his name 2-3 weeks ago. I was talking about him one morning with you, and one of those late round blocking receivers who can just kind of do a little bit of everything for you. Not much of doesn't have the speed to really take the top off of a defense, but he's so consistent and reliable. You can work him out wide, you can work him in the slot, and he can just bring so much to you. And as for Gunner, like he doesn't have that speed to get down to the field quickly, but he's going to be a reliable physical guy that's going to get down there and make be part of making the play. May not force a fair catch, but he'll be part of the tackle.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about that range, I absolutely love him. I love him for the Broncos, and with what he can bring. He can work some slants. He can work the middle of the field a little bit. Doesn't have the prototypical size that Sean Payton likes for that. I mean, he likes that 6'3", 6'4", big body guy for that kind of role, but Pat Bryant can definitely do it.
Yeah. Fun player out there. Good to give the old Big Ten West some love. Michael Ronquillo coming in with the Stars. God bless you, Michael. But sorry, my voice gave out there. Still kind of getting it going in the morning here. You, you deserve better than that. So go Bo Broncos, go Michael out there in Tucson. Hopefully the weather is good for you out there. I'm sure. Oh my gosh, March, April has to just be the best in the desert. Brandon Williams says, "Good morning, guys. Glad to catch you all live this morning. Well, glad to have you in here hanging out with us, and thank you so much for the super chat. You guys are always top dogs in here. We got a lot of YouTube folks in here as well, but the super chats help keep the lights on. Eric and I still in the fledgling stage of this, so anytime we can have proof of concept to the boss man, it's good stuff. But keeping us from the underdog status, but we don't mind underdogs either here at Mile High Huddle.
Yeah, nothing beats March basketball. Bring the fun of a bracket to every game day by making entries on Underdog. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play now in your state. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? Well, you can with Underdog.
To play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats, such as points, assists, rebounds, and more. Underdog's got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries with all basketball picks or mix and match across other sports. NBA's winding down. Baseball just started. My Cardinals swept the Twins, so that's fun as well. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into 1,000 just with your sports knowledge.
So download the Underdog app now and sign up using the promo code MHuddle to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with promo code MHuddle, claim your special offer today, and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon your first deposit.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncbgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call a 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Whew, man, I think it was the first time I've done that in one breath. So God bless. We're keep getting it going here. Hopefully everybody's have a good Monday. The coffee's kicking in. We're feeling good. Colorado's in here. Good morning, all. Good to see you. We're doing pretty well. Jason Bonnie in the house. Our guy Micah is in the house as well. Good to see you. Of course, Jeremy, Sean, morning, guys. We need more 7-round mocks. I think everyone knows who they want at 20, depending on the board. I think it's important to kind of see how it falls, and we'll have plenty of that as well. But there's guys that I think are worth talking about because we don't know. I don't think everybody knows who's going to be there at 20 exactly. And talking about the guys falling from pick, 8 all the way down to 20, like Jalen Walker could fall to the Broncos at 20. Jihad Campbell, one of these safeties. I mean, who knows? Sean Payton today on the talking, I think it was Chris, I always get the last name wrong. Chris T, the Denver Gazette, had a bunch of quotes from Sean Payton's talk today, which getting up and going doing the Falcons show before this, I haven't had a chance to listen to everything Sean Payton said, but kind of talking about the leaning into the strength of the roster and the draft, how the Broncos didn't go running back in the first round because the depth of the draft is available as well. Talking about Ingram in the Joker role, talking about the strength of the Broncos being defensive line and offensive line, but not necessarily shying away from that in the first round as well, or early in the draft. So a lot of different options, and a lot of, well, I guess is glazing as a negative term for the Zoomers out there, but a lot of, I don't want to say negative connotation on this, but a lot of excitement about landing Dre Greenlaw, and kind of feels like a coup if he can stay healthy. And again, another thing Sean Payton hypes up is the health of the players. Players are working out in Denver right now because they're very happy about this. So everything Denver's done there. So we'll see. Proof of concept's adding up on that front. Chase Wellner, great to see you. Mike Thomason's in the house. Great to see you. I see Conga is in the house. Quentin Caldwell as well, of course. Our guy Paul made it to BFB. Hello, Nick and Eric. Love this pod. Good morning, everybody. MBLE X Test Prep. Great. Matthew Allen, Jamal Killings. Guys are killing it. We got Mark in here. Tight end, running back. Let's have a great show. Tight end, running back. Something else about that caught my ear, Eric, is that they've been talking a lot about how much they like the wide receivers, but Peyton, when he's been talking about Joker and attacking the interior of the defense, he tossed in third wide receiver as well. For the first time this offseason, he actually tossed in like needing a wide receiver who can attack the middle of the field. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't have somebody on the roster, but at least he's acknowledging the existence of the value of wide receiver this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things like you and I, we've talked about it, about how they still need that wide receiver and everything. It was nice to finally get Sean Payton to weigh in on it that, yeah, we needed a wide receiver. That this is that is somebody that can help do what we're looking for. Another quote that he had that I thought was nice, because I mean, I brought it up before about how they like this running back room. Well, he said it today, is that they want to see how these guys progress. They'll get a chance to, because the first time they'll come in and get to see these guys, mostly for uh, getting to know the playbook and stuff like that, a little bit of working out, not much, play stuff, but it's they come in on the 21st, which is just before the draft. So they'll get a chance to see these running backs that they do like, and that will play a part in how much they value having to get a running back at 20. Which you and I, we're not on, I don't want to say we're not on board, but we've talked a lot about how it doesn't have to be only running back as the conversation there at 20. And, some of Sean Payton's comments, I mean, he talked about it going back to the combine about this running back room that they have. And it's a running back room they like, but just because they like it doesn't mean they can't and won't add to it. I fully expect them to add. It's just a matter of where, and then, talking about adding to his strength, that opens up the door for defensive line. And, offensive line is still on the board. They have two bloated contracts. They're both on the offensive line that they can get out after this year, Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers. And so if they go offensive line at 20, odds are they're looking at moving on from one of those two guys after it. So that's also an option for them. I think a little bit more for them. Versatile guy. I don't think they'll take a position specific person, not a tackle only or a guard only. But yeah, it's always nice when we get to hear stuff straight from the horse's mouth, when either it be George Payton or Sean Payton.
Yeah, and how much are you taking Sean at his face value with all the comments? You never know. But yeah, I pretty much came away again like they love running back. Early, if Genty fell, probably not going to happen. Hampton's obviously an option, but he might not fall to 20 as well. And Denver's there's no such thing as being so desperate for a running back that you're running back or bust in the first round. And that is emphatically true for the deepest running back draft in 15 years, in my opinion, at least. So Denver has options galore. Now, some guys they might like more, but doesn't have to be at 20. You can package some picks and go get your guy still day two. So we'll see how that plays out for Denver. We got our guy, Jason Bonney, says, with Strepo running a 4.840, he could possibly be a steal in round 4 now. One of the best route runners in the draft, slot machine. Restrepo is an interesting player. Now, he did have an injury when he ran. I'm curious if we'll get another run just to get a verified time, but he's not, I think he's probably a upper 4.5, low 4.6 kind of guy at the end. But what Restrepo brings is a very solid build for the slot. He is not like exactly built like a running back, but he's thick in a good way. The 2 C's, not the K on that one. And he's a very good security blanket. So round 4 is probably the range. Still, I trust that it's kind of like Golden running a 4.29. Like he plays more like a 4.39, 4.41 kind of guy. Restrepo doesn't play 4.8. He plays more upper 4.5s. 4th round is definitely possible. I'm just curious if Sean Payton wants a little bit more size and length over the middle of the field versus, a classic build slot, a little bit more hybrid. Alan Lazard, Michael Thomas, Marquise Colston, X tight end, F hybrid kind of guys than Restrepo brings, but definitely an option for the Broncos. And as Peyton talked about, that third wide receiver attacking the middle of the defense is important.
Yeah, I mean, he came out just after they were done at the pro day workout. He pulled his hamstring in warmups. And there was people that they were expecting to run low 4.5s, and then he came out and said during testing, during preparation for this, I was running pretty consistently 4.52 to 4.54 40-yard times. He's like, then I pulled my hamstring in warmups. I was advised not to run. He ran anyways, which that I have an issue with. Anytime they're advised not to run due to injury and they run anyways, you risk making it a little bit worse. But yeah, he's one of those guys that he's just very good at what he is. I question how much room there is for him to grow and be more than what he is. I still think that he's probably a top 100 pick. I am not sure he'll be an option for the Broncos, though, and it's for the reason you mentioned, Nick, length. He came in with pretty short arms, I believe under 30-inch arms, which that's pretty concerning and not something that either George Payton or Sean Payton have really looked at from their wide receivers.
He's a dog, though. And he just maximizes his ability, so I wouldn't be against it at all. 5, as Jason says, 5'9", 220. You gotta love the thickness there for him. So appreciate his ability and just being that kind of guy for that team. Adam Strange coming in here. Great to see Michael, NFL draft expert. I don't know where that's coming from, but if you're talking to us, God bless you. I'll take whatever title I can get these days, as long as it doesn't have a curse word in it. I'll take it. I did see we got Albert Knoppers in here. Dylan's letting us know it's a birthday boy today for Knoppers. So happy birthday. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully everybody is treating you right. And it's not always the best if it falls on a Monday, but it's not always the best, if you're over 30 years old, period. Well, I don't know, Albert, maybe you're 29. You're a good looking guy. So happy birthday. Hope you have a great one. And thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you have a fantastic one. Chat. Everybody, let Albert give Albert a happy birthday. That matters a lot. We support each other in here, so would really appreciate that, and hope you have a great one. Also appreciating Troy Boer coming in here. Says thank you guys for the show. You have been fantastic together. Love the no nonsense analytical approach. Well, I mean, there's a little bit of nonsense. Like let's be like there has to be like a little bit of nonsense. But do appreciate that. Yeah, Eric and I are friends, go way back. We got Dylan producing the show now in the back too, who we both love Dylan, so it's fun to have him in here as well, working the ones and twos, as they say. So really appreciate the feedback and the super chat, Troy. If you have anything else for us, let us know. And yeah, Albert says 57 today and a day off, so never mind. Monday's coming up. Albert today, appreciate you so much. Hope you're doing well. He also says you think the Broncos can move up for Tyler Warren? I think, Eric, I know that we've been talking a lot, behind the scenes, that like moving up from 20s not on the table. But let's say like he falls to pick 17. Don't think that happens. But either Warren or Genty falling up to 17. I think Warren is a unique enough player. If you can protect pick 51 and move up, 2 to 4 slots, you can get a Y tight end, which I think kind of rounds out the roster a little bit more, or Genty fall into that spot. I'm at least interested. Now, I'm typically not a move up first round guy because your top 100 picks are super valuable and we haven't had many of them. But if they have conviction about either of those two players, or Tet McMillan, I think is another one, at least for me, of the three, I could understand Denver making a slight move up.
It comes down to the cost for me. Would you be okay giving up the second round pick this year for it?
Say that again. Sorry, my internet.
Would you be okay giving up the second round pick for to move up to get one of them this year?
Man, I feel like I'm gonna have the I fell for it again patch on me. I don't think I would do it for Warren. I think I might do it for Genty. I like it makes me queasy thinking about that because like there's so much good defensive line talent available day two. But like Genty, I feel like is different. And you're in this like Bo Nix window right now that like it really lines up with his contract, with Bo Nix rookie cost control, with Patrick Surtain's peak as well. That like those two picks together, I would consider it for Genty. That's my heart telling me. My head says absolutely not. That's stupid. You could have a 5-year player, 10-year player on the defensive line, or get a running back that could be just as good. I mean, Genty's the position he plays. It's volatile. But I would consider it for Genty. Probably nobody else. I mean, if Hunter or Abdul Carter fell, then yeah, we're having a different conversation. I'm probably not doing it for Warren.
So that leads to the point is like, what is that? Where's that cost? That's too much. Because I'm with you. Like for Warren, I probably wouldn't want to include 51 this year, but I would be fine with 85. I just don't think that would be enough. Because also part of it with this year's picks too is the meat of this class is day 2. I would rather add more picks day 2 than lose one.
Yeah.
But with Genty, it's exactly what you said. With the window that you're in, the window is now. He brings more of that immediate impact there. Warren can, but tight ends still typically take a little bit of time. And so it's tough, and that's what it always comes down to. It's why there's negotiations for trades. Heck, we get 5-6 trades that happen in a draft, but there were probably talks about moving 20 different picks, and we just don't see them materialize because what one team's asking for, another team's not willing to give up. It just falls through, and that's what makes it so tough with it. And then player evaluation. One team has one player higher, which is why, hey, we want more for this pick than the team trading up, who values the player a little bit less, but it's still one of those go get them guys. So they may not want to give up as much. And not just that the player overall, but the draft class overall. They may have different opinions. Some may value their early day 3 picks a little bit more, and try to pick up on the leftover of the meat of pick some of the meat off the bone there early. So it's always tough. But I'm with you. If they get to about 17, maybe 16, I would consider it, see what it is. But I would prefer to hold on to 51 for either of them. I would be unwilling to do it for Warner or even Loveland. I think Loveland is one that you can start kind of having that conversation for a little bit. There is definitely a tier here: Genty, Warren, Loveland, for who I'd be willing to trade up for.
Not Tet.
I don't know.
Okay.
Personally, yes, but it's being brought up in the chat. Tet's comments about not watching tape, not wanting to love, not necessarily loving football, that makes me question if he'll be an option for Denver, or if he'll get removed off the board for them if he's not already, because Sean Payton, he loves his guys to be in love with the game, that there's no questions about it. They're willing to put in all the work on and off the field. I question if Tet fits that mold for Sean Payton to be part of that conversation. We know Genty, Warren, and Loveland will be.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I did see Ace Boogie said Judkins similar to CJ Anderson. A little bit not a squat, I guess is how we'll put it there. But Judkins he's a hammer. He's an interesting player. He's so hard to judge because Ohio State's offensive line was a freaking mess for a lot of the season. And then in the playoffs, they kind of finally congealed. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, Henderson and Judkins take off. So I don't know if you want to excuse it this year, but they lost their center. They kicked out their left guard to left tackle because of injury. And it took a little time. Very talented, but offensive lines, they take time to get everything going. So I do like Judkins for the Broncos. Dunn says, in the mind, Nick and Eric, always good stuff on Broncos for breakfast. Well, appreciate you coming in here. And there was somebody else in here. Somebody mentioned Savion Williams. I was considering putting him in the Broncos, my next Broncos mock here that'll be released Thursday in the third round. I pick 85. He's a unique player. I mean, massive, good athlete, absolutely bricks for hands, and not really a route runner right now. But as far as scheming touches for the uniqueness, he is definitely I don't know what the opposite of a joke. Maybe he's a Harley Quinn to a Joker. But he's a fascinating player. You do have to scheme touches, and there's a little bit of risk with him because of that. But definitely an interesting player and option. And if the Broncos took him, I'd be excited just because that means Peyton wanted him and would have a plan with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's one guy I also considered in my most recent mock that is coming out sometime today. Typically comes out not long after we get done with the pod. I will give a slight spoiler. It is all offensive. There is no defensive players in it. And next week I'm going to do an all defensive draft. And just trying to, when you do a 7-round mock draft every single week, I try to come up with different themes to explore just to add variety to them. Savion Williams is one of those guys I considered in the third round, and he's I don't have him graded as a top 100 player, and I try to kind of stick to my board a little bit. So I was trying to see if I can get him at 22, and he ended up not being there. He ended up going at 115 a little bit before. But he's just one of those guys where it's I think there's a way Sean Payton can use him to have an impact, that he can kind of fill a little bit of what they're looking for, but just doesn't have as clean or consistent of a role made out for him to be worth 85, which is part of why I was willing to pass up on him.
Yeah, well, we got to get to the mock here pretty soon, but William asks, hello from Perth, other side of the world. Hope you're doing well. Perth can get pretty darn hot, so that's a cool spot. It says, who's your guys' number one pick and most likely to be there at 20? William, I do not know. Dude, it's so hard to guess. I think Derek Harmon is very much on the table for the Broncos there. I think if Tet falls, he's on the table. I think probably right now I'd say Hampton. I don't love it, but it feels like that could be a cherry on top for where the Broncos scheme is at. I mean, dark horse could be Gray Zabel or even Marcus Bow. I know some people that like offensive line say, yeah, he might be a first rounder. Kenneth Grant is an interesting player out there. Mike Kliss mentioned edge. Now he talked more about round 2 through 6, but if a board falls and one of the 4 that he listed is there, the Broncos think about it. I feel like you're in a good spot, but it leads to just innumerable. Is that the wrong word? Just leads to so many options there at 20 that who's the most likely to be there at 20? It depends on the mock. Who knows what's going 1 through 19?
Yeah, it is. this year especially, it's rather tough because typically you can get somewhat of a clear picture in the top 10. Obviously, you still end up with a surprise like the Falcons taking Michael Penix last year. That was a bit of a surprise. But for the most part, outside of that, the top 10 were pretty well known. This year, we barely have the top five,
Yeah.
and we could still see a surprise in the top five. And when you have that, it makes it harder to project who's going to fall down. And on top of that, going back to last year, there's also a difference picking 12 to 20. But it is. I've been doing mocks privately, first round mocks privately, putting together everything that's been going around, everything that I've been hearing, and it's always like there's always issues with it because like, well, I went here, but it's like this is another player that's getting so much talk about this position. It makes it really tough when you don't have, the prototypical 20 to 25 first round players. That's typically the average that you get. This year, I currently have 12. I still have a couple numbers to crunch here that could possibly boost it up. I think there's 3 that are right on the cusp. So I could end up right at 15, but right now I sit at only 12, and I typically sit about at this time is sitting about 24, 25. And teams are pretty similar with that. So very weaker class at the top leads to it being a lot more questionable when you get to, outside of those for sure first round guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Peter Middleton coming in from Singapore. Hopefully, you're not feeling any of these earthquakes that have been hitting that region of the world there, Peter. So stay safe. Always appreciate you coming in and saying hello to us. And let's get this mock rolling here. We got another 15 minutes, 25 minutes or so before we got to wrap it up. So I think I have the odds this time.
Yep.
Is that correct? Is that what we're doing? Okay, so we're going to be sitting here and we're going to start the draft. I think it seems like Cam Ward for the Titans. Now we've heard that the Browns are looking to potentially trade down from 2, which to me means, well, we know Cam Ward's not going to be there. So I'm going to make the easy pick here. I think from here, Eric, I'm going to try to lean different directions. Cause again, last year, how many people at this point were mocking Michael Penix at 8 overall? Nobody. So that all it takes is one move to totally change things. So I'm going to lean a little bit into the randomness with some of this just because we don't know exactly, and what we hear sometimes isn't what plays out, obviously, with a month to go still. But you're on the clock now.
So if we want to lean into that, I think the Browns, there's kind of 2 players they want here. I think that they want Abdul Carter or Cam Ward, but I look at the status of their roster, and Travis Hunter makes a lot of sense with his ability to play offense and defense. Their cornerback room is a lot worse off than people realize. They have a lot of names there, but the names have issues staying on the field, and when they stayed on the field last year, they weren't great. And also, here's the big thing. The Browns are one of the teams in the top 5 who've made it very clear they view Travis Hunter as a wide receiver, and they need a lot of wide receiver help. I'm going to go Travis Hunter for the Browns.
All right. Well, that's great. We'll go Travis Hunter here. Fun player. Do you have a comparison for him at wide receiver?
No, because I don't really look into comparisons or anything. So off the top of my head, no.
Mine would be Odell Beckham. Just the unbelievable competitiveness above the rim, the twitch. Odell's a little bit bigger, but both of them are smaller, but play much bigger than that. So Odell is my comp for him, and heck of a player. We're here on the Giants now. Giants are such a wild card here. Is it going to be quarterback? Is it going to be Carter, the best player available? I think last time we went with Ward, Hunter, Carter, the first 3 picks, and didn't go. I think we took Shadur with the Saints. I'm going to switch it up here. I'm going to go Shadur here. This is a desperate team. I think Shadur is probably a little bit over analyzed to some extent. And they've been following him around like a fly following a cow this whole season. So I'm going to go with Shadur here, and maybe it blows up in their face, but they can't be the last team. They feel like they can't be the last team standing in the musical chairs that is the quarterback stuff. So go Shadur.
Yeah, I mean, what they've done at quarterback with Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston doesn't preclude them from taking quarterback here. And I think it was Jeremy Fowler. I'm not 100% sure. It was one of the ESPN guys came out and said that the Giants had somebody at every single Colorado game this season, and they have had somebody shadowing Shedeur Sanders throughout the whole draft process, including somebody where he's been working out in preparation for everything. So Shedeur Sanders to the Giants. Also, I think Matt Miller came out and said that that's a terribly kept secret. For the Patriots here, again, kind of sticking with it, going off the track. I don't think that they would expect this guy to be here. But Abdul Carter, best player available, best player on the board. Mike Vrabel, he loves his defense. Well, they could use offensive line. Um, there's still options later on that they can do and move around, and they have made some moves for their offensive line. I wouldn't be surprised if this was the way things fell, that we hear them trying to call up into the back of the first round for like a Kelvin Banks or a Josh Simmons or somebody like that.
All right, we're on the clock now with the Jags. I know they've been mocked hot and heavy on the defensive line with Mason Graham. I'm going to go a different direction in this one. I'm going to go with an offensive lineman here. I'm going to go Will Campbell. I know that they brought in Patrick McCarry, but Anton Harrison has kind of been erratic. I think Walker Little is not great either. Ezra Cleveland at left guard has not been great either. I think that you paid Trevor Lawrence a lot of money. You brought in a Liam Cohen, who what they've done with that Buccaneers team and the offensive line and the versatility and the athleticism of that Buccaneers line with the screens that they utilize changes a lot. So while there's questions about Campbell's arm length, the pro day was 33, the combine was different, the chaos between the measurements here, they got to figure that bleep out. But again, I know there's going to be a chance for defensive line later. The Jags have a lot of picks this class. So I think I'm going to go with one of the highest floor players in the class, one of the smartest players as well, a culture guy for them, and just help out Trevor Lawrence and give this offensive line and offensive unit a better chance. So Will Campbell comes off the board here at 5.
Yeah, have you heard the story about the supposed issues at the combine?
No.
So
all
apparently,
I know is measuring anything involving me. We don't need any inches on.
So apparently is that there was questions raised because there was such discrepancy from the All-Star games that they were raising questions at the combine for it. And instead of admitting he was wrong, the scout was adamant that he was doing correct. Everybody else was wrong. And it led to some issues to where I would not be surprised if the scout who does it ends up being fired after this draft. That's something that's been going around a lot, the whole measurement controversy. And even though we're being different, the Raiders here, it seems like it's terribly kept secret at this point. Ashton Jeanty, there seems to be some hesitancy from some of the beat guys who follow the Raiders about Jeanty being the pick because Spytech very much believes in positional value and everything. But Pete Carroll, he wants his running game. They've seen a way to where they can be successful with Geno Smith, and that is with a strong running game. They had one of the worst running games last season. Ashton Jeanty, even though we're being a little bit different this time, I'm going to keep this pick the same.
All righty, Ashton Jeanty. Bummer for Broncos. I mean, old team. I think the offensive line was better than the metrics last season because their running backs were just absolutely atrocious, and they didn't really have perimeter weapons to help as well. And the Jets are happy with that pick for you. I know that commonly mocked to the Jets is Tyler Warren. I'm going to go with the right tackle, Armand Membu here. Finish out that offensive line. We don't have the quarterback here long term, but we're really stabilizing the offensive line with Olu Fashanu last season left tackle. Now we get Membu. We can do a lot of different things with the tackles here. He could be right guard. He could be right tackle, left guard. I mean, he's heck of an athlete, good player.
Yeah. The Jets are a team that they can just go so many ways. They're a roster that doesn't have elite talent at so many different spots. Panthers, they're pretty much the same. It's been edge often for the Panthers, but over the past week or so, past few days, there's been some wide receiver love, and it's been if any receiver is going to go in the top 15, it's going to be Tet. And there's been some Tet Panthers talk. So I'm going to go Tet here just to go off the recency of, the chatter there.
Interesting pick all around. Well, I like that for the Panthers, help out Bryce Young. The offensive line there is already really good. You paid a lot of running backs in that building. So now the Saints are on the clock. This is a trade down team if I ever saw it. But we're going to stop the Mason Graham slide here. They could use defensive line. The Brise pick has not worked out for them on that unit, and they just need to get some guys. I think I like Graham a lot. I do have questions about how his length and getting off blocks, like the secondary move. He doesn't win initially off the hoof. I think he has some issues, but he's a good player still. all the same, good run defender and everything like that. Just a really high floor. So we're going to bring in Graham here, kind of follow the Saints MO as well as they continue to just draft trenches.
Yeah, and kind of keeping up with going off a little bit. After with the Panthers, I went with what's been recent with the Bears. Running back here, I'm going to go Marion Hampton. And there's been a lot of talk that Ben Johnson is willing to kick the can to next year on defense, kind of following what Denver did last year. They went and got Bo Nix, and they went and got some pieces around him, and they kind of focused this year on the defensive side of the ball a little bit. Bears seem to be doing a lot of things, especially with Ben Johnson, wanting to get Caleb Williams to become that franchise guy for them, helping take some pressure off of him by getting a more consistent run game, as well as getting his duo, getting his own Gibbs Montgomery in Chicago like he had in Detroit with Hampton and Swift.
So now we're on the clock here with 11 overall. Could go a number of different directions. They're very sad about the players falling like crazy. And I'm going to give a shout out here to Mike Tice. He did some offensive line work for this team, and he gave a shout out to a player that this is the first time I'll be honest, I haven't done too much work on the offensive tackles this cycle because only so much time. But he said his number one player in the entire class at offensive tackle was Josh Connerly. He does everything well. He's a really good athlete. And I'm going to listen to the old ball coach here. I don't know if this is a great pick at the end of the day, but the offensive line came off the board. They're going to need to protect them. They need guard and tackle help. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Mike Tice. Nate Tice does a good work over for the is it the Ringer? Yahoo. That's not the Ringer. It's a Yahoo. And he had his dad on. And his dad went like goo goo gaga for Josh Connerly in the evaluation there. Somebody that's going mocked pretty consistently 30 overall, but he loved them, and I want a little bit of athleticism. Connerly has that as well. So that's definitely the biggest shakeup, but I want to go with some shakeups here. Yeah. It's always boring to have the same guys over and over again.
Yeah, Josh Connerly, he is very much more athlete. He has no strength nor no core power whatsoever. If you want evidence of that, go look up the Mike Green Senior Bowl highlight of the one-on-ones where he just got bowled over by Mike Green, who is not a power rusher whatsoever. That's my big issue with Connerly. But for the 49ers with what they do, Connerly actually makes sense. It's early, but hey, we get guys going early all the time. We see it every year. There's always that reach for the guy that you love that, hey, we're a team that does value him at this point. And maybe that's the case here with this one. For the Cowboys, I'm also going to go a little bit off the reservation here. You went with an offensive tackle. I'm going to go with Kelvin Banks. Not for them at tackle, but for them to put at guard who potentially can move out to tackle at some point. They tend to love these types of offensive linemen. And, they just lost Martin, who is such a stalwart for them on the offensive line, should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, absolutely phenomenal of a player. They got to replace that. Kelvin Banks.
So now I'm on the board with Miami. I'm thinking of a number of different directions here. Eric, I love the tape of Jahdae Barron, but I will say the arm length and the age concern me a bit. So I like doing more like the tape off the hoof is like, oh yeah, hell yeah, love that guy. Ooh, 23 years old, something like that. And the really short arms. I think he's going to slide a little bit. So otherwise I'd have him here. I think Starks is an option here as well. With how much they utilized Jonnu Smith last season in the tight end screen game, I know that Loveland is mocked here a lot, but I'm going to go with the more tight end screen guy who I think is a little bit more versatile in the blocking. I'm going to go with Tyler Warren here to the Dolphins. It's a 2-for-1. It gives you a quick option for Tua. You can lean into the run game a little bit more with that kind of option as well. They've had the Gesicki type. They had the Jonnu Smith. Give me somebody who's a Y who can do like the actual tight end screen dump off stuff to a really high level. So Tyler Warren.
Yeah, and I know he's off in this mock, but one name that's been floating around a lot recently with the Dolphins is Marion Hampton, which is why I question if he'll be there at 20. Because there's a lot of talk about him with the Bears, there's a lot of talk about him with the Cowboys, and a lot of talk about him with the Dolphins as they look for somebody who can be a little bit more of a hammer for them, while they look to Ashane to be that speed explosive back for them, as a lot of teams are wanting that 1-2 punch. But as for the Colts, you went Tyler Warren. Again, like I did with the Raiders, I'm going to go with what seems to be a terribly kept secret. The Colts, they've done a lot of work on Colson Loveland. Colson Loveland is going to be the pick here for it, for the Colts. And yeah, side note, Did you see the coach of the Eagles talking about the tush push ban?
Mm-mm.
He came out and he made a comment about how the Steichen, Moore, and the Arizona coach, whose name escapes me at the moment,
Gannon.
they should all be against banning it because the tush push helped them get a head coaching job.
Yeah. Well, worked then, maybe not now, especially, Gannon with Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we'll see. I'm on the board here with the Falcons. Mike Green. He's got the background stuff, but they need edge rusher help so bad.
Yeah.
And he is super twitched up. I think he's going to be able to get after the passer. Maybe questions about the edge setting or whatnot, but he'll be able to get home. So I'm going to go Mike Green.
And the Falcons have done a lot of vetting into the background of Mike Green, all the questions that they have there. The Cardinals, they can go a lot of different ways. I would expect them to go some kind of weapon for them on the defensive side of the ball. There's been, again, going with some recency here, there's been a lot of Will Johnson talk with it. So I'm going to go Will Johnson here. There's been a lot of Will Johnson talk with the Cardinals, a lot of Jahad Campbell as well. So I could see them going either of those ways.
All right, we're on the board now with the Bengals. Things are starting to get interesting here for the Broncos. There's somebody who has been linked with the Bengals a lot. You mentioned it to me, and also I heard it beforehand, and it's somebody that's a little bit of a bummer because he's somebody that I like as an option for the Broncos at 20. Derek Harmon. Do not be surprised if Derek Harmon is the second interior defensive lineman off the board. He's more versatile than the top two. He tested really well. He's a good run defender. I think he was number one interior defensive lineman in pressures this season. Now, some of that scheme, but how many teams on third down? If you can be good enough on first and second down and run defense, you are doing the pass rush games up front.
Yep.
So that's translatable to me. So Derek Harmon, 17. Bummer for me because I like him as an option for the Broncos at 20. Again, the length, the size, the versatility, 5 technique down to 0 technique makes a lot of sense. But the Bengals just need help up front, and he's been linked more and more and more and more to them at 17 overall.
Yeah, and Dylan's heart just sank with that pick, but I'm with you. It seems like Derek Harmon to the Bengals is one of those picks that is going to catch a lot of people by surprise, but doesn't seem like it should be because there's been so much connecting them there. And there are teams that have him as their second defensive lineman behind Mason Graham. There are some who have him as their top, I'm sure. And he's just a pretty versatile guy that can do a lot for you. And the Bengals kind of need that help on the defensive line. As for the Cardinals here, they're another team that can go a few different ways, but their offensive line has been a complete mess. Health has been such an issue with it. I know there was a lot of hope for Cross and Lucas after the rookie season, but they've had a lot of issues lately. Gray Zabel, though, he brings them a lot of versatility on the interior offensive line. And Mike McDonald, the head coach, coming from the Ravens, who value versatile offensive linemen so much, we're starting to see that translate over. Granted, it's only year 2 for him in Seattle, but they value versatility offensive linemen. I don't think there's anybody more versatile on the offensive line than Gray Zabel who can play all 5 positions.
And we did have Shedeur go 3rd overall on this board, Jeremy. So he did no Dart yet, and no Tyler Shuck either. But he did come off the board. 19 overall. Eric, I'm going to ask you real quick because I listened to Trevor Sikkema and what he's talked about, and it sounds like the Buccaneers are higher on Jalen Walker than Jihad Campbell. I don't know if that's true. Like they said, the floor for Walker is 19. I know that Campbell's been linked there a lot, but overall it seems Walker's been higher. Jihad has the labrum injury surgery as well. I don't know if that's impacting him. So I'm leaning Jalen Walker here, but it could be either of those linebackers. I was just curious if you had heard anything on that front, but I'm going to take Jalen here on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard both of them mentioned. I haven't heard as much about the labrum with Campbell keeping him from being the pick. I have heard more about Walker's injury and not being certain as to what he is, being able to get, we can see it on tape, but teams, they like to see it in workouts. They like to get that confirmation, and Walker's not able to confirm it, which I've heard that used against him and not Campbell. So I've always leaned Campbell, but Walker, there's been stuff connecting him with the Buccaneers with what they're looking for from a linebacker edge hybrid type player that, Walker and Campbell are.
And I think we went Campbell last time.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about an Edger and Cooper comparison for that type of role? He's downhill. There's some questions about the dropping back, but you're especially the Buccaneers, you're so blitz oriented. Now you do get some worries, like is it Devin White again? But it doesn't sound like Walker's character is like A plus plus in the work ethic stuff, where people are like, I'm just betting on the person. So here we are with the Broncos now at 20 overall. It's not an ideal board for Denver. I would say there are options still here, but I'm going to leave it to you. You got the odds, and still wide receivers available. The top 2 tight ends, the top 2 running backs are gone. Top 2 interior defensive linemen. There is interesting edge rushers available. There is still in some interior defensive line. You got Campbell as well. I mean, it's not, I know everybody's screaming for offense in this one. I don't know if it sets up the best for them here, unless you love Golden, which we have to get Golden in this mock. We left him out last time. I can't imagine that. But where are we at for 20?
I mean, Emeka Egbuka or Kenneth Grant, I think. They're both guys that are still on the board. And you mentioned Matthew Golden. There's been a lot of talk about him falling of late after, there was guarantees that he was going to be a first-round pick, that he was going to be the first wide receiver drafted a few weeks ago. He's kind of been, all right, now maybe not. Egbuka, he's been a popular pick with us, privately. Kenneth Grant, he's also been very popular with us as well because of his versatility on the defensive line. I'll let you pick, but Kenneth Grant or Emeka Egbuka, I'll let you pick between the two.
I'll probably go Kenneth Grant. Is there any thoughts about Malachi Starks or one of those edge rushers? I mean, Mykel Williams is interesting. I mean, the 4i stuff is pretty good, actually, and he could play. You and I privately have talked about adding more size at edge with interior down rotation ability, and that's more of a day 2 kind of conversation, but like Mykel is so unique and different that, maybe just the board falls to you this way, and you're just like, you know what? Screw it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's some consideration for it, but I just think that I think there's a few more guys there in the second round that you could look into that kind of fit that mold to where you can, add somebody else here and then go and try to get somebody else. Ideally, I'm looking at a trade back as I see you flirting with the trades. I could see, the Vikings moving up, but if the Vikings are moving up, they're probably moving up for a Mykel Williams or a Kenneth Grant.
Jahdae Barron would be interesting for them, though. Like,
He
just
would
for
be
stability on the back end.
So would Jahad Campbell with how much they like to blitz.
Yeah.
They've also been linked to some linebackers, and I know Jalen Walker with keeping them going. Jalen Walker's always is the one that I have fall a little bit, but he typically goes there to the Vikings at the latest. So I'm with you. I think Grant probably a little bit more. You have Malcolm Roach on the final year of his deal. You can give him a replacement. And, Grant, he still has the ability to play out as a 4i as well. He has a little bit more versatility than you get with, DJ Jones or Malcolm Roach.
Yeah, we go Grant there for the Broncos. I am very intrigued by Campbell, Shamar Stewart, and Mykel Williams as well. Not exactly, like glaring needs from this team, but just how the board fell. Like, draft the best player. Your top 2 linebackers played a combined like 100 snaps last season, and they've obviously looking for a hybrid role with how they talked about Drew Sanders being a pressure player and hasn't worked out for them. So weird spot for the Broncos. And as crazy as it sounds, like you're not going to have the most immediate impact for those guys, but you have options day 2, maybe even trading back up for somebody at running back still. So that's just how the board fell this time. And you got to play the board. So we're sitting here now with the Steelers. This is me. The Steelers. I'm going to go with Jahdae Barron. I feel like this team needs some just bodies on the back end. A very smart physical player. They tend to go with high profile players as well as far as statistical output, SEC player. So I'm going to go with Barron.
Yeah, I mean, they have Minkah Fitzpatrick, but what he and Barron do is a little bit different. But they love the versatility of their defensive backs. They love guys who can do a little bit more. Joey Porter, he's been all right for them. But Barron for them, that's a good pick. And I think that defensive back they have safety on the Pro Football Focus board. I think they would rather have, more of a nickel guy. And Malachi Starks, he can play a little bit in the nickel as well, so he could be an option there. But, there might be, it's not completely redundant with Minkah Fitzpatrick, but there might be some redundancy there. For the Chargers here, wide receiver. Mykel Williams I saw you circling him. Mykel Williams is interesting. But Chargers seem all about improving the offense this year. I could see them going Matthew Golden. They Emeka Egbuka, either one of those two. Luther Burden is been a pretty popular one for the Chargers, but there's a lot about Luther Burden falling out of the first round and maybe even falling out of the top 50 because some concerns about his attitude and character and stuff like that, as well as, and I talked about this Friday night, and I don't know if you're aware of this, Nick. He went into the season wanting a more traditional wide receiver role. He failed at that, and they moved him back to being more of this gadget type receiver and saw success out of him. So there's a lot of questions coming from that about how much can he be as a traditional wide receiver going forward. I think Matthew Golden would be the pick here over Egbuka, but either one of them can work.
Okay, we'll go Golden. I think they'd go edge rusher here, just a glass eater up front. Just the Harbaugh mentality, but not a bad pick at all. And I'm curious if Higgins is somebody who could rise up here because teams are just so desperate for X receivers. And maybe he's better as a big slot. I don't know. But I think the wide receiver stuff, the order might be interesting come the draft because it seems pretty jumbled. I'm on the board here with the Packers. Packers need help at they need wide receiver help. They need edge. They need cornerback. I'm going to end up going with one of their guys. I'm going to go with Michael Williams here. Again, I keep talking about him. This is just too talented. I think he could go as high as 8 overall. So it's just the athleticism, the size. It sounds like he's got high character as well. Played through injury this season. So if the ankle checks out and everything, I think he's got a chance to be a pretty good player. Packers are known for just drafting monster edge rushers here, just throwing assets at it. So going to Michael Williams, I have to stop the slide.
My question is it a slide? I question how much his propping up is media driven and not NFL driven.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. But part of that is this edge linebacker with Walker and Campbell throwing them in there with their ability to play edge is very weird. You have Shamar Stewart, who is so insanely athletic, but 4.5 sacks in 3 years, never more than 1.5 sack. And there's a lot of questions from him not doing any workouts at the combine or the pro day. There's already questions about if he loves the game. Michael Williams with injuries, Jalen Walker with his injury, Jihad Campbell with his torn labrum. There's a lot of questions about this. Mike Green with the off the field. Like so many questions about this room that this is the position. You talked about it with wide receiver about the order being all jumbled and everything. I think that's the same case with edge. And I am very curious to see how it's all going to play out and fall because that is such a valuable position. But each of these guys have a legitimate case as to why they would fall not out of the first round, but to the late first round.
Yeah.
And then for the Vikings, I talked about it when we were talking about Jalen Walker, Jihad Campbell here. For them, just being able to utilize him as a linebacker, talking with the guy who is pretty close, without name dropping, to the Vikings about the defensive coordinator and the defensive scheme there. They seem to really want somebody who can play linebacker and get after the quarterback, which is why I put Walker there so much, but Campbell's the one here this time.
And I'm going to go with Josh Simmons here to the Texans. They brought in Cam Robinson, but they still need offensive line help. I know that somebody out there, Bob McGinn maybe, or Tony Pauline had some questions about Simmons' character stuff, but this is fine range for him. He's running around at Ohio State's pro day and everything. Seems to be on track for that torn patella. I think it was what it was. So going to stop that guy there. Somebody who probably top 10, top 15 talent, but with questions of character apparently, as well as the injury falls here. And the Texans have a contingency plan in place where they don't have to play him right away.
Yeah, I believe it was Bob McGinn, and he used the term that he said that a scout referred to him as a mother, just because of how difficult he is to handle. That is something that has been floating around for a little while, as well as some concern, and not concerns, but some issues with injury as well. I think they would go offensive line there. I just think it would be Kelvin Banks. And for the Rams here, do you have any thoughts? Because the Rams, with how this board fell, I am drawing a blank.
I don't really think Curl is a superstar player, so I could see Malachi Starks with how much havoc they create up front. Just take a good player here. Keep getting young on the defense. He's one that's worthwhile a discussion point. Emeka Egbuka does kind of fill in the Cooper Kupp role as well if you're looking for that. So those are the two that stand out for me. Also, we could talk Trey Amos. We're down here a little bit. They need cornerback, and that's where I went last time. But I don't know. I think this Rams just letting the board fall to them. I could see Starks. I don't think Curl's a difference maker.
Yeah, they like to go with who they have as the best player, and that makes it difficult because we obviously don't know who their best player will be on their board. But in this case, best player is Starks. So let's go with Starks for the Rams. I'm with you. They can upgrade at safety. It's not really a need for them. They have some quality guys, but Starks just makes sense for them. And then Shamar Stewart to the Ravens. I saw you click that in. He is that Ravens type,
Yeah.
like plain and simple.
Yeah, if he goes to like some other teams, like, oh, it might be a bust. Ravens. Oh, great pick. Just the uniform. Yeah, perfect. Good job for them.
Yeah. And then with the Lions on the clock, let's see here. They got to get somebody else to get after the quarterback, right? Like
Yeah.
after they struggled to generate consistent pressure, Izuraku is. I'm going to keep Pierce falling. I would be surprised if Pierce goes in the first 2 rounds with what's going around about him, which may seem a little backwards if you have any idea about the off-field stuff with him compared to some other guys we have in the first round. But you know, don't want to get into that too much. But there's issues already there with the NFL with that. So Izuraku, he also kind of fits that mold that they have gone towards with edge a little bit more than James Pierce does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're sitting here at pick 29. The Commanders could go a number of different directions here. They don't have a lot of draft picks after a couple of trades here, but they feel like they're very much a team that's going for it right now. I mean, you have the quarterback cost control window. The NFC feels pretty up for grabs. I mean, they might have even beaten the Eagles in the regular season. So they're a interesting team. I'm going to go with a dark horse here. I'm going to go with Travion Henderson to the Commanders. I think that's a team of the spread stuff. They can go there. The pass blocking, the Jaden Daniels dumping it off. This is one that Broncos fans will be heartbroken with. But we talk about the Broncos being in a win now position. I know the Commanders defense is not as built, but maximizing Jaden Daniels, the ability of stuff you can do around with him in the pass game, the checkdowns for Jaden Daniels, the pass protection for Jaden Daniels as well. Interesting fit. I think it's fun to think about and talk about.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Definitely not the way that I would have gone, but that's also part of my thing is I have a hard time seeing Henderson being a first round pick with some of what's going around about his injuries. But that aside, would make a lot of sense for the Washington Commanders, who they are looking for. They tried Austin Eckler last year, and that kind of fluttered, and fizzled out. And they like Brian Robinson, but they can upgrade there, so they can go different ways. I could see them going Judkins there, as well. They can go any which way with the running back position. For the Bills here, Nick Scourton.
Oh, you break my heart. Okay, well, that's where I was about to go with the Chiefs as well. But Scourton makes some sense for them. That's a good pick. Now we're on the clock with the Chiefs. Chiefs could go a number of different directions as well. I feel like I'm going to go with. I feel like last time maybe we went with Walter Nolan or something like that, but we're going to kind of make some upset fans here in Broncos country potentially. And I'm going to go with Tyreek Williams here for them. Play off of Chris Jones, who can do a little bit more games across the line, edge or 4-eye or 3 technique. Tyreek just eaten up the middle. So I'm going to go with Tyreek Williams here, who might be the best run defender in the entire class.
Yeah, I mean, he is so good, so quality. And with Nick Scourton, I think that if he's going to go in the first round, it's either 30 or 31. Both teams have been linked to him pretty heavily. The Texas A&M Pro Day just happened, and the Chiefs spent a lot of time with Nick Scourton. They also ran his drill for it, and only him. Even though there were other defensive linemen and edges there, they made sure they took over the drill for Nick Scourton, which is a pretty good sign of interest at the very least. Yep. Eagles to close it out. Yeah, they're another team that, with the way Howie Roseman does, obviously you want to factor in positional value. They don't mind taking some guys with some concerns. Nick, quit circling the name that I was going to. You're spoiling things here. So Walter Nolan for them, just adding to a strength for them. They lost Milton Williams, so they can still use that rotational guy a little bit and to back up between, Carter and Davis and the other guy they have whose name escapes me at the moment, as part of their rotation. So Walter Nolan for the Eagles.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. complete first round mock. Some different thoughts here and different. I wanted to have at least a few that were like, huh. I had Connerly to the 49ers as one that I wanted to do, and I had Henderson to the Commanders as well. So I got those in. First round mock. Obviously, the board didn't fall great for Broncos. I see a comment here from Jeff B. Says Broncos don't draft defensive line at 20. Sean Payton's press conference today might say that it's a possibility in the least. And the way the board fell here, Kenneth, I think with how much the Bills have been linked to Kenneth Grant as well, maybe a trade up from Broncos can move down from 20 to 30 and still see what the board looks like here if they wanted to. That's not Sean Payton's MO, but who knows? So yeah, fun mock. Broncos go Kenneth Grant. It's just kind of how the board fell. And we'll see. I mean, the point being, I know people are very, horse blinders right now with the running back position, but Broncos going to have options at 20. Regardless, there's going to be good players available. I would have been happy with any of Kenneth Grant, Jahdae Barron, Matthew Golden, Michael Williams, Jihad Campbell, Shamar Stewart. Heck, that's probably the range right there. Maybe Malachi Starks. I don't know. It's kind of weird what Broncos want to do there. But yeah, it's nobody threw a dart at Jackson Dart in that one. Nobody threw Tyler Shuck. Maybe at some point we'll have one come in here. There's the issue is that we're not doing trades. It's like get hard because then it takes even longer. But maybe we'll do one before the draft. But all right, well, we're going to wrap it up here. I did see we had another super coming in from Michael. Great show today, Nick and Eric on Broncos for Breakfast. God bless you, Michael. God bless everybody who came in today with the super chats. Brandon Williams, Jason Bonney, Troy Boer with the orange here, 1999. You guys are great. Appreciate everyone. Hope you appreciate the exercise as well. Let us know if you'd have done something different, like specific. Who would you? Oh, Denver has to go there. We didn't have Egbuka come off the board there. We didn't have Luther Burden come off the board here. That's kind of where things are at with a lot of the draft talk. But who knows? It's crazy. The draft is very volatile and hard to project, and this year is going to be even tougher. So a lot of fun. Any final thoughts, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the quarterback conversation with not having Dart in there, the issue I have is that every single year we have that quarterback that gets talked around as a first-round pick and doesn't go in the first round. Even last year we had that. Spencer Rattler, there was a time where Spencer Rattler was a for sure first-round pick over Bo Nix, over Michael Penix. With some people in the media, and it didn't happen. And then, Drew Lock, he was the guy for Denver at 10, wasn't the guy for them at 20 even. Every year, we just seem to have those guys, and I think it's one of those situations where if we were doing trades, I could see Dart going in the first. Without trades, I don't think Dart will go in the first.
Yeah. And we have some fun here from George Payton. Just came out, so it's of course we're wrapping up the show. But George Payton stated the running back class depth this season is incredibly good. It's a very strong class. We can get it back in this class. He also says you can get great backs all the way through the second and sixth round. So the running back are bust at 20 overall. Maybe it's a smokescreen. I don't know, but feels like some other people have been saying that, where some folks have been hammering. It's because I have a little kid right now. Like the shapes, like we have the circle hole. Guess what? We're gonna force the square one into there. Running back at 20, no matter what. Doesn't have to do that. So appreciate that. Make sure you guys are following Eric on Twitter. Eric's at Eric Trickle. I'm at Nick Kendall MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at Mile High Huddle over at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. And as that ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share. Hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. We'll see you again Wednesday. Jeremy will do a 7-round Bronco show as well. 7-round Bronco mock, maybe even a couple. We'll see. So appreciate you guys. Got to get going. Have a good one. Eric, always fun. Hope your back feels better. Choose kindness, compassion, guys. Go Broncos.